So in the last video, we saw how partisanship had increased and how the Republican Party had turned first toward climate for a brief second and then away from it. It's now arguably in the same position with respect to climate change that it was in the early 90s. I wanted to give our president a chance to express his views. So I put as many tweets as I could find of uh, his thoughts on climate change and on environmental issues. He seems to be in favor of fracking, but against environmentally friendly light bulbs, arguing that the former is safer than the latter, and that wind farms are bad for health. He also has several times stated that he thinks that our focusing on climate change reveals weak governmental leadership, that it could have detrimental effects on the economy, that the term climate change was a public relations hoax proposed because it seemed scarier than global warming. It's actually kind of wrong in multiple ways. Both terms have been used since the 60s, but climate change was used by the Bush administration in order to make it seem like it was just something different. So sort of pushing it as a less scary alternative to global warming. And sometimes he's noticed that it can get cold, that we should have other priorities besides climate change. So this is the slide that took me the longest by far to make of any slide I've ever made. This is the current Congress. On the left is the House, and I have marked with a not symbol anybody that has expressed views that we can associate as climate denial, as people that have doubted that climate change is either happening or that it is caused by humans. They are color-coded by party. I've also highlighted which people are in various climate caucuses, right? So our very own representative, Mark Amodei, is both a denier and in the climate caucus, which is an interesting tension. Everybody in the House is up for re-election, but most of the seats are safe. I have added a dotted outline to all of the competitive seats, and I have color-coded them based on the likelihood that they would switch parties. The closer it is to white, the more likely it is to be a 50-50 toss-up. The closer it is to blue, the more likely it is that the Democrat will win. The closer it is to red, the more likely it is that the Republican will win. And that's essentially anything that's less than 95% likely for one party or another has been, I have coded in this way. You'll see most seats are safe. There's a couple of vacant seats for some scandalous and some tragic reasons. On the Senate, only a third is up for election every 2 years. And that doesn't include anybody in Nevada, but it does include several people who have national profiles, perhaps Lindsey Graham, Who else might you have heard of? I mean, I guess depending on how politically active you are, Tom Tillis or other people might be known. But you'll see, like here, I highlighted even the ones that are 99% likely to be reelected. And you'll see that still quite a few climate deniers in Congress to this day. Let's get local. So our senior senator from Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto, has a pretty strong record on environmental legislation. She's argued that the irreversible effects of climate change are preventable and that we should be committed to science-based solutions. Our junior senator is a member of the Climate Solutions Caucus, and she's argued that it's not just a threat to the environment, but it's a national security issue that would lead to global instability. For Congress, we're in this part of the Nevada, we are represented by Mark Amodei, who has argued that global warming might be caused by the core of the Earth being warm, and has a pretty low scores from most environmental groups. He does do fairly well with humanities, so maybe I should be nicer to him. But he has some of the lower scores in Congress on this. His main candidate this election cycle is Patricia Ackerman, whose website states that she's pushing for environmental jobs, for renewable energy jobs, that there's at least 8,000 jobs that we could get that we could not lose because they'd be local jobs. If you remember the earliest slide, this isn't considered to be a very competitive race, but you know, stranger things have happened. Our governor, Steve Sisolak, has argued for enacting tougher environmental standards and in fact has gotten pretty good ratings for his supporting of environmental legislation. So that was local issues.